Chiefs Kingdom sub for Chiefs Dubs. 2 games to go, including a massive one against the Cincinnati Bengals. Bottoms up, 8 straight wins. The RBVs hit different on Wednesdays here at Chat Sports. The real ones know. Hit that subscribe button. Join the movement because, hey, that playoff push is coming, baby. Trying to get that number 1 seed. Subscribe. And stay tuned because we're going to break down the clinching scenarios to get that number 1 seed and kind of some of the other teams in the AFC vying for that number 1 seed. What's going on, Chiefs fans? Harrison Graham here from the Kansas City Chiefs Report, here to update you guys on the latest Chiefs playoff picture, the scenarios, how things are playing out in the AFC as we sit with just 2 weeks to go. I feel like we were just talking about the preseason in week 1, and here we are in week 17. Of course, this year there's a week 18, which will be next week, but we're focusing on the playoff picture heading into week 17. And all of a sudden, the Chiefs control their own destiny in the AFC after 8 straight wins. Obviously, they win their final 2 games. They are for sure the number 1 seed, but there are other scenarios to get that number 1 seed as well. Tennessee, Cincinnati lurking. You also have Buffalo, Indianapolis, and New England, who are all technically alive for that number 1 seed in the AFC. Of course, the Chiefs clinched another AFC West championship this past week, 6 straight AFC West title, so congratulations to Andy Reid and the boys. They absolutely have dominated this division for the last 6 seasons, and that is no different this year, but let's be honest, the Chiefs have much higher goals for 2021. But if you agree with me that the Chiefs own the AFC West, just type KC in the comments. The Chiefs own the West. We all know that. These are just the facts of life. What's the saying? What are the guarantees in life? All I know is that the Chiefs winning the AFC West is now one of those. Type KC in the chat if you agree that the Chiefs own the AFC West. And hey, we got some AFC West championship gear on tap for you guys if you want to take advantage. Got some cool stuff, t-shirts, hats, hoodies. A couple of the hoodies are really cool. This one's awesome. What does it say, Marsh? It says, get to the play. Lights playoffs action. I thought that was a cool one for you guys. Chatsports.com/ChiefsWest as an AFC West champs. Chatsports.com/ChiefsWest. Click that link in the comments or in the description and go check out some of their gear. Long sleeves, short sleeves, hats, hoodies, other random items as well that you can surf over there and pick and choose what you want. Chatsports.com/ChiefsWest. I'll have that link in the comments and in the description. So, mathematically, there's actually still 6 teams alive for the number 1 seed in the AFC. Of course, the Chiefs on top at 11-4 right now. Tennessee at 10-5. We'll talk about them in further detail. Also, Cincinnati, who the Chiefs play this week, sitting there at 9-6. Buffalo, Indianapolis, and New England all technically still alive at 9-6. But those final 3 teams, in terms of getting the number 1 seed, not necessarily in terms of teams that could beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, those 3 teams, they're not going to catch the Chiefs. Like, they're not really in position. The Chiefs would have to lose out, and those teams would have to win in and get some help along the way. I'm not really concerned about those last 3. It's more about Tennessee and Cincinnati. Even though the Bengals are 2 games back, since they got the head-to-head matchup coming up this week, Bengals win that one, that could obviously change things for the Chiefs, put some pressure on that Broncos game in Week 18. So who's going to get the number 1 seed in the AFC? Type C for the Chiefs, obviously the favorites right now. Type O for other, as in it's going to be someone else, and if you want to be go above and beyond, you can say Titans, Bengals, Colts, whatever you want. Who's going to get that number 1 seed in the AFC? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. All right, you look at the Chiefs' remaining schedule at the Bengals, at the Broncos, before wild card weekend. Obviously, if the Chiefs clinch that number 1 seed, they won't be participating in the wild card weekend. They'll be enjoying some mimosas and watching from the couch, which is what we all want. You want that home field advantage. You want to skip that wild card round, get guys rested up if they need to get rested up, and obviously just take advantage of that bye week where you don't have to win an extra game like all the other teams. Chiefs clinch the number 1 seed. There's basically 2 ways it can happen, with either 2 wins, winning their final 2 games, or a win and the Titans lost. Technically, they could lose out, and the Titans could lose out, and Some of those 9-6 teams don't win their final two, but you lose out. You're not going to get the number 1 seed. So 2 wins or a win plus a Titans loss. Those are the 2 scenarios to clinch that number 1 seed. Obviously, the Titans just a game back and having the head-to-head over Kansas City, that's the team to keep an eye on. So with Kansas City having road games against Cincinnati and Denver left, you look at that versus Tennessee, home at Miami, who has won 7 in a row, and then at the Texans in Week 18. That's a game that Tennessee should win, but the Texans have been sneaky this year. If Tennessee were to win out and the Chiefs lose one of their final 2 games, the Titans would get that number 1 seed. So looking at that remaining schedule for Tennessee, you can't rely on the Titans to lose a game if you're Kansas City. Like, the approach from Andy Reid should be simple. Win your final 2 games, you're the number 1 seed. Like, go all in these final 2 weeks, and let's make it 10 straight wins, and let's get that number 1 seed. I mean, that's the message that I assume Andy Reid is preaching. You focus on Cincinnati this week, and then on to Denver in Week 18. That's what it comes down to. I don't think relying on Tennessee losing to either Miami or Houston is a good idea, because it's not that realistic, if we're being completely honest. Maybe they'll lose to the Dolphins, but we'll see what shakes out on that front. Will the Chiefs win their final 2 games? Because if they do, they're the number 1 seed. Type Y for yes, type N for no. Will Kansas City win their final 2 games and get that number 1 seed in home field throughout the playoffs? Just weigh in down in the comments. You look at the Bengals now, Chiefs, and then at the Browns before Wild Card Weekend. And look, it's still a distant chance for Cincinnati, but if Cincinnati were to upset the Chiefs at home this weekend, which, look, I'd be a little surprised, but the Bengals are playing well and it's at Cincinnati. Eventually, there's a chance the Chiefs could lose a game, right? The Bengals are very much alive if they win this weekend. They can still get that number 1 seed. If Cincinnati beats the Chiefs this weekend, beats the Browns next week, and they would obviously clinch the AFC North because they control their own destiny there. Plus, they would have the head-to-head over Kansas City if the Chiefs also lost to Denver in Week 18. I wouldn't expect that to happen, but you never know. I mean, it is the NFL any given Sunday, right? That Broncos game becomes a lot more challenging and pressure-driven for the Chiefs if they lose to Cincinnati. Obviously, the Bengals would also need a loss from the Titans, who are 1 game ahead of them currently at 10-5, but that's at least plausible at the end of the day. So when I look at Tennessee and at Cincinnati, when it comes to the AFC playoff picture, those are really the 2 teams that are the biggest, I'll call, threats to the Chiefs for that number 1 seed. Now, again, Chiefs heavy favorites. They win their final 2. None of this matters. But if the Bengals beat the Chiefs this weekend, that changes things. That really opens the door for Tennessee and potentially for Cincinnati as well. Chiefs are 5-point favorites in Cincinnati at Paul Brown Stadium on Sunday. Over-under kind of been moving around, but around 49, 50 points right now. 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff, noon Central Time as well. Predict the score of that matchup because the Chiefs beat the Bengals. That eliminates Cincinnati for that number 1 seed, and it gives the Chiefs that much closer to the home field advantage. Who's going to win? What's the final score going to be? Chiefs, Bengals on Sunday afternoon. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'll take Kansas City 34-27. Okay, so just to kind of look at this again, things are getting pretty interesting in the AFC. I mean, how about Miami? They win 7 in a row. They're the only team in NFL history to lose 7 in a row and win 7 in a row in the same season. They control their own destiny to make the playoffs. Shout out to the Cola on that one. The New England Patriots, they've lost a couple in a row. Buffalo's won a couple in a row. Indianapolis is hot. Carson Wentz on the COVID list. Will he play this week? Who the hell knows? All I know is that adding this 7 seed the last couple of years has really spiced things up for the final couple of weeks of the season because you still have the Chargers, the Raiders, the Ravens, Pittsburgh, a lot of teams still in the mix. But to kind of circle it back to Kansas City, keep it simple. Like I said earlier, just win out. Win out. Don't you want to win 10 in a row to go into the playoffs? That would be dope anyway. They were talking about 20-0 in the offseason. Well, winning 10 straight would be pretty cool at the end of the day. So win your final 2. None of this matters. You're the number 1 seed in the AFC. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. We will obviously continue to have some videos throughout the week. A couple of mailbags between now and kickoff on Sunday. Plus, we will have a post-game show on Sunday as well. Follow me on Instagram at HGramNFL. That is at HGramNFL. You guys can interact with me over there. Greatly appreciate it from you guys here on the Chiefs Report. We'll see you soon, so stay tuned.